Aiden Cross never imagined his quiet volunteer shift would throw him into the center of a wedding filled with secrets, tension, and a kind of loneliness he recognized too well. He had come to Grand Event Hall only because a co-worker begged him to cover the morning hours. The place smelled like roses, polished floors, and nervous excitement. Yet something in the air felt wrong, as if everyone were holding their breath. And then he saw him. Lucas hailed the groom, dressed in a flawless cream suit, sitting in a wheelchair that seemed just slightly too big for his small frame. The chair caught on a patch of uneven carpet, jolting forward. Before anyone else reacted, Aiden rushed over, hands catching the handles just in time to stop the chair from tipping. Lucas looked up with startled eyes, then laughed softly, embarrassed. Guess I'm rolling into chaos already. Aiden smiled, adjusting the wheel lock. Not today. I've got you. Despite the chaos around them, Lucas's eyes held warmth, gratitude, and something quietly aching. Aiden felt it immediately. A weight, a hope, a question. Wedding planners zipped around them, their whispers sharp and urgent. Missing decorations, late schedules, phone calls that went unanswered. But beneath the usual wedding panic, there was something deeper, fear. Aiden sensed it, but didn't know why. Lucas sighed heavily as he glanced at the large double doors. Marcus is late, he murmured. He does this sometimes. Gets caught up in things. Aiden didn't know Marcus, but the way Lucas tried to justify it told him everything. The groom was used to being disappointed, and used pretending he wasn't. A man in a dark suit stood against the far wall, security earpiece glinting. Aiden wondered why there was such heavy security at a wedding. Until he saw him. Damian Westwood, billionaire, owner of the luxury venue. A commanding presence in a tailored suit that looked like it had been designed specifically for him. He watched everything with a sharp, assessing gaze. When his eyes briefly locked on Aiden and Lucas, the air shifted. Aiden felt seen, almost examined. Lucas noticed. Don't mind him, he whispered. Damian's complicated, but he cares in his own way. Aiden wasn't convinced, but he didn't push. As Lucas nervously straightened his jacket, Aiden helped adjust the boutonniere, so it sat just right near his collar. Lucas smiled at the gesture, though his hands trembled. The whispers around them grew louder. Whereas Marcus, he didn't come home last night. Lucas deserves better than this. Aiden pretended not to hear, but Lucas did. His smile faltered. Aiden knelt beside the wheelchair. Whatever happens, I'm here, he said gently. Lucas swallowed hard and nodded, the words grounding him. The side door suddenly opened. Marcus Lane entered with a casual swagger, hair damp, shirt slightly wrinkled. He moved with the confidence of a man who believed he would always be forgiven. Lucas lit up instantly. Relief washed over him like sunlight. But Marcus barely gave him a glance, muttering, Sorry, babe. Something came up. Damian's voice sliced through the room. Came up in a hotel room upstairs? The planners went silent. Guests froze. Marcus shot Damian a sharp glare, jaw tight. Stay out of it. But Aiden saw something else. Guilt. Damian's stare didn't waver. Aiden sensed history, tension, and a truth no one was brave enough to speak aloud. Aiden began pushing Lucas toward the ceremony space. Halfway there, Lucas whispered, Do you think he still wants this wedding? Aiden paused. Do you want it? Lucas hesitated, then whispered, I want to believe I'm enough for him. Aiden's chest ached. Lucas deserved someone who cherished him, not someone who showed up late with excuses. Guests turned as Aiden rolled Lucas down the aisle for pre-ceremony photos. But Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to break. Damian moved with purpose, his gaze tracking Marcus like a predator waiting for the right moment. Before the photographer began, Damian approached Aiden quietly. Watch him closely today, he murmured. He's going to need someone who actually cares. Aiden opened his mouth to ask what he meant, but Damian was already walking away. Lucas looked up at Aiden, fragile hope shining through the worry. Thank you for helping me today, he said softly. Aiden placed a steadying hand on the back of Lucas's chair. You're not facing this alone. Neither of them knew it yet, but this wedding would unravel more than just vows and promises. It would unravel hearts and rebuild them in unexpected ways. The ceremony was supposed to begin 15 minutes ago, but the hall had fallen into an uneasy hush. Guests shifted in their seats, whispering questions they were too polite to voice directly. Aiden stayed beside Lucas, his hand resting lightly on the wheelchair handle, ready to move whenever Lucas asked. But Lucas wasn't asking for anything. He simply stared at Marcus from across the room, as if trying to read the truth in his posture, in his silence, in the way he kept checking his phone. Marcus avoided eye contact with everyone, including Lucas. When the officiant quietly asked if they were ready to start, Marcus muttered, "Let's get this over with," before forcing a smile that convinced no one. Aiden felt Lucas's breath catch. That single sentence landed like a blow. Aiden leaned slightly closer. "You don't have to do anything until you're ready," he murmured. Lucas nodded stiffly, though Aiden could tell he was swallowing pain too big to process. The music finally began. Guests rose. Aiden guided Lucas down the aisle, though with each turn of the wheels, he felt Lucas's muscles tense beneath the suit fabric. Aiden wanted to tell him everything would be okay, but he couldn't lie. Something was wrong, wrong enough that even the air felt heavy with it. When they reached the front, Marcus didn't bend down to greet Lucas. He simply looked at him with a flat expression, as if wishing he were anywhere else. Aiden stepped back slightly, hovering nearby, though his attention kept flicking to Damien, who stood at the back of the hall, his focus on Marcus sharp and unblinking. The officiant began, but barely made it through the opening line before the hall doors swung open again. A woman entered, breathless, clutching her phone. Her eyes locked onto Marcus, and something inside her broke. "Marcus," she said, her voice trembling, "you told me you weren't getting married." Gasps scattered through the room like falling glass. Lucas froze. Marcus's face drained of color. Damien straightened, as if bracing for impact. The woman stepped forward, holding her phone out for all to see. Messages between her and Marcus appeared on the screen. Affectionate, frequent, unmistakably romantic. Nothing graphic, but more than enough to destroy trust. A timeline, a pattern, a truth. Aiden felt the world tilt around Lucas. Marcus snapped. "What are you doing here?" "You lied to me," the woman cried. "You said you were ending things. You said the wedding wasn't real." Lucas flinched at that. Aiden instinctively moved closer, as if ready to shield him from words that were sharper than any blade. The officiant stepped back, speechless. Lucas's voice broke first. "Marcus, what is she talking about?" Marcus stammered. "It wasn't serious. I just—" Damien's voice thundered through the room. "You cheated on him last night, and last week, and months before that." The hall went silent. Lucas stared up at Marcus, his expression cracking. "Is that true?" he whispered. Marcus didn't answer. His silence was confirmation enough. Aiden felt Lucas tremble. He immediately crouched beside the wheelchair. "Hey!" he whispered gently. "I'm right here." Lucas looked like someone realizing the house he had built in his heart was made of paper. His breathing turned unsteady, but he didn't cry. He looked hollow. Damien moved toward them. Fury kept barely in check. "This wedding is over," he declared coldly. Marcus whirled on him. "You don't get to decide that." "I do," Damien replied, voice low and controlled, "because I refuse to let Lucas humiliate himself for someone who never cared about him." Lucas's lips parted, stunned by Damien's protectiveness. The woman stepped back, tears streaming. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Lucas. "You didn't deserve this." Aiden placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder, grounding him as the reality settled over him. "You don't have to stay here," Aiden said softly. "You don't need to let everyone watch you hurt." Lucas nodded faintly. "Please take me outside." Aiden immediately guided the wheelchair to the stunned crowd. Guests turned away respectfully, their earlier whispers replaced by sympathy. Outside, in the quiet garden, Lucas finally let out a shaky breath. "Why wasn't I enough?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Aiden knelt in front of him. "Lucas, this was never about you not being enough. Marcus wasn't capable of giving what you deserved. You loved with your whole heart. He didn't." Lucas closed his eyes, tears finally slipping down his cheeks. Aiden gently wiped them with a napkin someone had left on a nearby table. Steps approached. Damien stood a few feet away, his expression filled with regret, anger, and something softer when his eyes flicked to Aiden. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "but you needed to know the truth." Lucas nodded slowly, exhausted. Aiden stayed close, his hand resting lightly on Lucas's arm. And though Lucas was the one hurting, it was Damien's lingering gaze on Aiden that hinted another story had quietly begun. Lucas stayed in the garden long after the hall fell quiet again. The echoes of the ruined ceremony drifted faintly from inside, but the world around him seemed muted, softened by lantern light and the gentle sway of nearby trees. Aiden remained beside him, never pushing, never filling the silence with forced reassurance. He simply stayed, a steady presence, grounding Lucas each time his breath wavered. "I really believed he loved me," Lucas whispered eventually. "Even when he stopped showing it, I kept telling myself it was just stress or work or something temporary." Aiden knelt down in front of him, so their eyes met at the same level. "You loved him with hope," he said softly. "There's nothing wrong with that. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them break you." Lucas's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because your heart was honest," Aiden replied. "And he wasn't." Before Lucas could speak, a quiet set of footsteps approached. Damien emerged from the walkway, carrying a folded blanket and 2 bottles of water. He offered them without a word. Lucas accepted the blanket with a small nod, grateful despite everything. Damien stood there for a moment, as though trying to decide whether to stay. Aiden motioned for him to sit. Damien hesitated, then lowered himself onto the bench beside Lucas. For the first time that day, Damien looked less like a billionaire and more like a man worried about someone he cared for deeply. "I should have told you sooner," Damien said, voice low. "But every time I got close, you defended him, and I didn't want to be the one to break your heart." Lucas laughed bitterly. "He broke it anyway." Damien's expression softened. "I know." Aiden watched the exchange quietly. There was a deeper bond between Lucas and Damien than he had realized, one built on years of loyalty, history, and unspoken care. It made sense now why Damien had been watching Marcus so closely, and why he'd stepped in the moment things unraveled. Lucas shifted his gaze to Aiden. "Thank you," he whispered, voice thick. "You didn't know me, yet you stayed with me through all of this." Aiden shook his head. "You didn't need to face that alone." Damien studied Aiden with a look Aiden didn't know how to read. Something admiring, something curious, something quietly intense. It lingered a moment too long before he looked away. As the sky dimmed into evening, Lucas grew tired. Aiden suggested taking him somewhere quieter than the garden, somewhere with less noise, less memory. Damien offered his private lounge in the venue, a quiet room with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. Lucas agreed. Inside, the room felt warm and gentle. Lucas settled into a cushioned chair, while Aiden made him tea from a nearby station. Damien hovered for a moment before joining them, not as a host, but as someone who wanted to help even if he wasn't sure how. Lucas sipped the tea slowly. "Will it always feel like this?" he asked. "No," Aiden said. "It gets easier, slowly. And one day, you'll realize the pain doesn't define you anymore." Damien nodded in agreement. "And you'll have better people in your life," he added quietly. "People who don't take you for granted." Lucas glanced between the 2 men, then leaned his head back against the chair. "I don't know what happens next," he whispered. "You don't need to," Aiden said gently. "Just breathe, one moment at a time." Lucas closed his eyes, comforted by the calm around him. When he drifted into light sleep, Aiden stepped aside, watching over him. Damien joined him at the edge of the room. "You were remarkable today," Damien murmured. "I've seen people freeze up around pain like that, but you walked straight into it." Aiden shrugged lightly. He needed someone. Damien tilted his head. "So did I." The word surprised Aiden. Damien wasn't a man who revealed vulnerability easily, but now, in the quiet glow of the room, he seemed different, less guarded, more human. Aiden met his gaze. "I didn't mean to step into your world today." "I'm glad you did," Damien said. "You made me see things I've been ignoring." Their eyes held for a moment, not romantic yet, but undeniably charged. Lucas stirred awake softly. Aiden returned to his side. immediately. "You okay?" Lucas nodded. "Can we go home?" I think I need to start over from there." Damien arranged transportation instantly. His private car arrived at the side entrance within minutes. Aiden helped Lucas into the vehicle carefully, making sure he was comfortable. Damien watched the tenderness in Aiden's movements with clear admiration. Once Lucas was safely in the car, Damien turned to Aiden. "If you're willing, I'd like to see you again. Not because of today's chaos. Because I want to know the man who stayed." Aiden felt warmth spread in his chest. "I'd like that." As the car pulled away, Lucas resting peacefully in the back seat, Aiden stood beside Damien, realizing something unexpected. He ended the day trying to save a stranger. He ended it discovering someone who might just want his heart.